This is bad news for all Americans across the nation, as it looks like President Joe Biden has completely just lost control of the situation in the Red Sea. And that's not the news that you and I really want to hear as citizens of this country, especially when we hear about threats from different countries like Iran, China, North Korea, Russia. And I mean, some of these threats could even be directed right at the US, the people. Now, I want to ask you guys, do you think that it's fair for us to suffer because of the miscalculations from the Biden administration? Because we're now hearing of more possible attacks that could further put the supply chain of the entire globe in a chokehold.
Talk to us about what can be done. Obviously, these attacks are very concerning, and we're living through a time of, escalating tensions in the region and globally, and no one wants to see full war breakout, greater U.S. involvement. At the same time, this does seem like a serious security situation.
It's an extremely serious situation, and this is one of the two main tracks in which the war in Gaza can escalate. The other one is if the Israelis attack Lebanon, which the U.S. government is very worried about. And of course, the impact the attacks on shipping in the Red Sea can have on the global economy should not be underestimated at all. The immediate impact on the Israelis is quite tremendous as well. But I think it also shows that as long as the approach of the Biden administration is to try to de-escalate by threatening further escalation, it actually leads to the type of conundrum that we're in right now. Because the options the administration is looking at is to see how can it punish the Houthis militarily in order to get them to stop, whereas the most obvious measure that would be far more effective and truly de-escalatory would actually be to work to make sure that there's a ceasefire in Gaza. Because if there is a ceasefire in Gaza, first of all, there were no such attacks by the Houthis prior to the war. The Houthis have made clear that they're going to stop if the Israelis stop the bombardment of Gaza.
It's apparent, and I think that nobody can really refute this, but it's apparent that the Biden administration seems to be treading on eggshells when it comes to these Iran-backed Houthis. Some say it's because they don't want a full-scale war with Iran, while other people are saying they're claiming that it's 100% because of the 2024 presidential elections. Now, here's my question. Do you think that he cares more about the elections than the American people? Comment 1 if you think Biden cares more about his re-election, and comment 2 if you feel as though he cares more about the people of this country. And while you guys are at it, don't forget to drop a quick like for the video if you appreciate the research that goes into these videos, and also consider subscribing to the channel. I'd love to have you guys a part of this community. Appreciate it, guys. All right, now getting back on track here. I told you guys about how Americans seem to be at the receiving end of these attacks on trade routes, even though, of course, we're being affected in a different way. Now, as you guys may already be aware, 12% of global trade goes through the Red Sea. And we've already been hearing from big companies like BP announce their intent to avoid this popular trade route, sending oil prices higher. But the question is, what happens if more trade routes get closed off? And that's exactly what Iran is threatening, as they just said that they might close the Strait of Gibraltar and the Mediterranean Sea. Now, just for context, guys, and because I need you guys to really understand just how big of a deal this is, the Red Sea is, like I said, it allows like 12% of global trade to pass through, right? The Mediterranean Sea, on the other hand, currently serves 20%. Let me repeat that, guys, 20% of global shipping. Now, I know a lot of you guys already know what's going to happen next, but I need to be the bearer of bad news this time around. This is probably going to lead to even higher prices at the stores. Doesn't matter if it's Walmart, Target, Costco, Kroger's, whatever retailer it might be. If 20% of the world's global trade will be closed due to these Houthi attacks, then expect things to become much worse within a very short amount of time. And we're going to see it first. But of course, as of the recording of this video, these attacks are mostly threats at the moment. Very much unlike the attacks in the Red Sea. But what's the message from the White House? Well, they're saying that the attacks from the Red Sea aren't really having a big impact on holiday products, and for once, they're actually right. But here's what you should note here, okay? The holiday products that they're talking about, they've already been here for months. Retailers aren't going to be ordering supplies at the last minute. That would be downright dumb, wouldn't it? So them saying, oh, don't worry, supplies for the holidays are fine, even though the Red Sea is in a hotbed for Houthi attacks. It doesn't really mean much given that they knew for sure that these products were already here. I mean, these retailers are probably buying products for Valentine's Day already. Either that or they already had them on hand. But hey, maybe they should talk about gas and oil next, right? Because who cares about getting a PS5 or even an Xbox when you can't even drive to the store because gas prices are just way too high? And well, like, how the heck are you even going to buy one of these consoles if you can't even afford gas, right? But you get the point of what I'm trying to say here. The White House is pointing at something that's completely unrelated to what's happening right now. But give it a little bit more time. And then mix in the possibility of a bottleneck in the Strait of Gibraltar and the Mediterranean Sea, and you're going to see just how painful it's going to be for the American people. Now you got to ask, does the Biden administration know about this? And what will they do to protect us? Well, it would be weird if they weren't aware of these possibilities and just how big of an impact it can have on millions of Americans who are already struggling right now. And with the peak of holiday shopping probably behind us at this point, it's pretty safe to say that credit card balances together with buy now, pay later services, they have seen a huge increase. But it might not end with holiday shopping, as a lot of Americans are using their credit cards. And these services, they need a lifeline to buy what they need.
First, how did we get here? Why are so many Americans so deep into credit card debt?
People are leaning into credit cards much more than they were previously. There are a couple of different factors here. One big factor is obviously inflation. Things are just more expensive than they used to be. Cost of goods is up across the board. And so we're seeing a lot of Americans lean more into credit cards in order to make ends meet. So this isn't just frivolous shopping, Lindsay. It's not people being flippant or doing a lot of new travel. It's a lot of times people just trying to make ends meet with the budget when it comes to groceries and other basics. And so as a result of that, but combined with raising APRs that are really compounding a lot of that interest, we see Americans carrying much more credit card debt than they were previously.
Now, with all of that combined, how are Americans really going to be able to cope with the prices that may skyrocket well into 2024? These are things that you need to be on top of because, like I said, we're not going to see the strain on the supply chains right off the bat. It's gradually going to become tighter and tighter. And this is exactly the reason why I'm trying to inform you guys in advance. Now, what you need to do with that information is completely up to you. Now, what are your thoughts on all this, guys? Make sure you guys share them down in the comment section down below. And before I go, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.